On today's show, It casting continues. Vin Diesel could be joining another action franchise, and Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder might fall in love. Will her ex Count Dracula come back to haunt her? Find out right now. Collider Movie Talk is about to kick.
I love that shot of Vin Diesel. That's great.
Muscle. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
was he doing
like
that?
Muscle, son.
Too busy looking into my camera and being the professional that I sometimes tried to be. That is Perri Nemiroff. That is John Rocha. I am Mark Ellis. We have a huge episode of Collider Movie Talk today, and we brought the poll back just for you kids in honor of It 2. The casting has continued. Now, here's what we know about It Chapter 2. Here's the really good news. The clown's coming back. As is director Andy Muschietti, the movie is set to open in September of 2019, which means that we're going to get production going here in a little bit. There's casting announcements that have happened yesterday. James Ransone and Andy Bean have been added to the cast. They're going to be playing two of the adult members of the group of kids that we so fell in love with in the first It. And then they're going to be joining Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader, and of course, everybody's favorite. You know him. You love him, James McAvoy. And that's kind of why I bring up McAvoy today, because he was in another movie that actually took some lore from a thriller that we weren't sure what was happening, and that was with Split. And so the poll that we have today is, what horror sequel are you most anticipating? You can click on the eye right there on YouTube and vote. In the meantime, I want to get y'all's take on this casting announcement. Does the addition of James Ransone and Andy Bean do anything for you? Maybe not necessarily from the actors themselves, but just the type of actor that we're going after, in the fact that these aren't A-listers, but they are very capable actors.
Absolutely. I had a feeling that this was the path they were going to go down after we got that first initial announcement. And I think still at this point, it's Jessica Chastain is locked, and then Hader and McAvoy are still in talk. So while those negotiations are going on, I did have a feeling that even though the first It movie made a ton of money, that they were not going to want to basically commit to our entire fan cast for this movie. And I think that's the way to go, because as fun as it has been to see them all lined up and see, let's say, these three names standing next to, you know, a Chris Pratt, a Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I don't want to look at this movie, and you said it before we even started taping, and now I have that stuck in my mind. I don't want to look at It Chapter 2 like The Expendables, where it's like, cool, look at this all-star cast just in this genre or in this type of movie. And James Ransone in particular, when I saw that, spot on. I think he has just enough likeness to Jack Dylan Grazer, the kid who played young Eddie in the movie, and he is also just a talent through and through. No surprise, I love the movie Sinister, and I got a kick out of him playing Deputy So-and-so in that. But beyond that, he is an incredibly talented actor. Andy Bean, I did actually watch a little of that Here and Now before it got canceled. I think I saw 2 or 3 episodes, and, you know, I'm not going to say he made the biggest impression on me, but I know what his role was, and he was fine in it.
Yeah, I did really like Ransone popping into Sinister in the way that he did. And Rocha, I mean, I'm going to compare this to a sports team, but I'll also use a movie reference for Perri's sake. And that would be, look, if you have Ocean's 11, that's a movie that had a huge cast and it came together and they didn't overpower the story. Then you also have a situation like, say, Ocean's 12, where it's just a huge cast coming together and it was just about coming together and having a nice vacation. That's not what you wanted from It Chapter 2. If you liken it to a sports team, I think this is shaping up to be more like the Bulls of the 90s than it is the Golden State Warriors, where it's just everybody's famous. This is the Bulls, where you have a couple A-listers. Obviously, you have Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman can be Pennywise, and then you have a bunch of role players that pop in there. You don't want the cast to overshadow the movie. You want some people you recognize, and then you want to fill in the pieces around them with role players.
Sure. I couldn't disagree with you more. Or Perri. And I wanted to see an all-star cast. I would have loved to have seen that. You know why? Because it's not the 1990s anymore. We don't need the Chicago Bulls. It's the Golden State Warriors time. Steve Kerr coaching them up. You got this happening to Muschietti. I think Muschietti, all these great actors in Muschietti's hands wouldn't have ended up being Ocean's 12. We would have gotten Ocean's 13, which is coming back to the original 11 and loving and doing even more with these characters. And essentially, 13 is a sequel to 11. So that works for me, as It Chapter 2 is a sequel to It Chapter 1. So I would have loved to have seen them bring in an all-star cast. I don't think it would have been Expendables. I think there's great character actors that they could have brought in, great famous characters that could have brought in to play these roles. Now, nothing against these two gentlemen who have been cast. Congratulations, go make you money. Congratulations, you're in a great film. But I would have loved to have seen other good actors that we know and love in these parts, play these parts. Because if you remember, the It TV movie was all-star cast for that time. Harry Anderson, John Ritter, Annette O'Toole. It was all people you knew, all-star cast all around.
That's an all-star cast from the 90s.
From the 90s. TV,
those are really good actors.
Perri's favorite place to find actors on TV. That was the best actors that you could find there at that time.
You brought it up this time, not me.
They were all-star actors at that time. John Ritter was still famous.
Is that why you're not as thrilled with James Ransone? Because he was in The Wire of all things?
Well, I don't even remember him in The Wire, to be honest with you. There were other people better in The Wire. But I
already gave you 3 pretty heavy hitters, if not A-listers. I mean, I think Jessica Chastain's an A-lister.
Yes,
I think James McAvoy is an A-lister.
Absolutely.
I think Bill Hader's an A-lister.
Sure.
What more do you want?
Also, bring back the fact that Skarsgård is coming back to play Pennywise.
Sure, of course he is.
All the kids who are now uber famous, they're all involved as well. So even though these new adult versions of them are the headliners of the film, there's a lot of elements of this production that do need that budget. So even though A-list cast could have worked and could have been fun, I want to make sure that every single department in this is very well covered.
I also like giving actors who we haven't heard of a chance in a movie that's going to make them stars.
Maybe, but it also indicates that those parts aren't going to be as important as your A-list actors.
That was my next question.
That's why you cast the A-list actors in the parts that you cast them in.
You know who my prediction is to becoming a star out of this, or at least a more well-known star, is James Ransone. I would put money on that, especially given how the character of Eddie is used, as far as I know from the book at least, in the second half. Right now, I would put my money on if It Chapter 2 is great, he's going to make an impression.
I want to make it clear, too. I'm not against these men being cast. Like, go and make your money. I respect that. Absolutely. Congratulations getting cast. I'll just say what I would want personally. I would have liked to see an All-Star because I would have enjoyed everything to see it all. With kids, it's different. You have different patience with kids. But with these characters, because they're adults now, I would like to see them.
John Ritter's a legend, okay? John Ritter is an absolute legend. I don't know that anybody else in the original It miniseries is bringing anybody to that. I don't know that people are like, hey, Richard Masur, he was great in Encino Man as the dad. I got to go check this out.
You were both embryos in the 90s. I can tell you I was in my 20s. These people were famous. Richard Masur was a very famous. He was in one of the most greatest, amazing stories you've ever seen. Him and Gregory Hines with the piano wire. Richard Masur was a great character, famous. And Harry Anderson, the late great Harry Anderson, recently passed.
Harry Anderson's fantastic. He was great in Night Court. Richard Masur will always be known in the Ellis family as the dad in the Mr. Boogedy and Bride of Boogedy Disney movies. Those things. Mr. Boogedy was terrifying. I'm going to give you the option, though. Congratulations. I just made you an executive, and you can now fill out the cast of it because we still have 2 kids as adults that we need to cast here. So I'm going to allow you to do some of the stunt casting that you say we need for this movie. Who is going to be playing those last 2 roles?
David Oyelowo as Mike. Absolutely. And I know people going to Jerry Connell to play the fat, or Chris Pratt.
Both for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I get it. Heavier guys who got skinny.
You can throw me into that, into that hat.
But I would like to go even more. Like I would dance around with Hiddleston as the fat kid who became skinny because he's so against what he was back then. And Hiddleston does a great job of walking that line between character actor and lead actor, and he can do the American accent. So to me, I would like that's a kind of a extreme choice.
He also has a working relationship with Jessica Chastain. So maybe that does make sense.
Yeah.
Who do you like, Perri? Would you rather see unknowns? I'll allow that answer in this debate as well.
Well, obviously, if we're talking about who comes to mind, it's hard not to go with an A-list, well-known actor. And I really did kind of warm up to that Chris Pratt idea. I think he really would be able to capture what Ben becomes when he gets older. And I wouldn't mind seeing that. I don't know if Hiddleston really fits how I envision that character growing up, though. But David Oyelowo, I think, is a great option. And Chiwetel Ejiofor is another well-known, very capable actor who could bring a lot to this role. But I think right now I'm kind of in that middle ground where, I'm not saying just pluck someone out of obscurity and keep your fingers crossed, but I wouldn't mind seeing someone who isn't a superstar right now taking these other 2 roles, because these are some meaty roles. I mean, really, every single role is important, but what these 2 characters go through and just what Mike means for their journey going forward and what he's been up to over these 27 years, that's a really important thing to be able to capture. And then also, bringing up the Jessica Chastain connection, that is important to him and Bev in this next movie. So there's a lot riding on these two characters, and I trust Andy Muschietti to pick the best possible people for those roles, whether they really excite me from a star power standpoint or not.
Well, it's one of the reasons why we're so excited about It Chapter 2. Like I said, it doesn't come out until September of next year, but we already have a poll dedicated to it and some other horror sequels that we're looking forward to. So right now, y'all can vote, as I want to hear the take from the panel here on our poll. You just click that eye in the corner of the YouTube video if you're currently watching it. If you're listening to us on our podcast feed, thanks for listening. We'll tell you who won. You can either vote for It Chapter 2, Glass, Halloween, or we'll toss the first Purge in there because it's coming out this summer. Which of those horror-ish additions to their franchises are you most anticipating? Perri Nemiroff, it's actually a tougher call. I thought it would run away with this, but then you start thinking Halloween, Glass.
It's a very tough call. I think I'm going to knock out the Purge because the last Purge disappointed me.
Okay.
And I love Split. And obviously, I love Halloween as a franchise, and I do have a lot of faith in what they're doing with this next one. But because we're coming off like so soon after the monumental success of It, and it was one of my favorite movies of last year, I think at this point in time, I have to say It.
All right, she is still just starry-eyed from that damn clown. Now, Rocha, if you give me a good argument, and if you say I'm at the multiplex and this is the movie we need to see, and you convince me, I'm going to throw in The Nun for free.
Wow.
I will throw in a Valak because I'm such a nice guy.
The Nun 2, the Nunnery. Listen, I go... Get thee to a nunnery. Sorry. I would say Glass. Glass is my thing. I get it, and I love the book, and I've read the book many times, and the idea of a sequel is great. But for me, the bar of expectations and possible crash and burn is higher with Glass. Anything can happen here. I know we're in capable hands of Muschietti, but Shyamalan's, recent last 10 years has been uneven. So to see what he can do with this sequel, if he knocks it out of the park, plus the superhero approach to it all interests me as well. So it's my way of walking into horror without necessarily having my brain scared out of my head like I was in the first It. I can see this horror from a place that's a little more real and relatable and understandable. And then what he could do with that, with the superhero aspect. And because we'll get some massive superhero battle at the end of it as well. So that appeals to me more. Plus, I like those Bruce Willis and Samuel L. and McAvoy to see them going at it. It would be great.
I want to give either one of y'all The Nun for free, but if you live in the San Fernando Valley, you probably just heard a primal scream. That would be Mark Riley raging at the fact that we didn't vote for Halloween. You guys can vote for Halloween right now. I think my vote's going to go with Halloween at this point in time, but It, Glass.
My vote might change after I see that trailer.
Okay. All right. I will not allow the vote to change, but if you want to retroactive, good luck with that. Our next story involves a report in the Wall Street Journal saying that the Walt Disney Company is currently weighing the options of having the ousted Pixar CCO John Lasseter return to the studio after his 6-month sabbatical. Now, you'll probably know that Lasseter had various allegations against him from employees that worked at Pixar of sexual misconduct, although nobody actually had come forward to levy a specific claim. That's what got him out of there in the first place. So after a 6-month sabbatical, he could come back, but we also could have that May 21st date, which would mark the 6-month period, come and go without a resolution being named. So Walt Disney taking their time with this story, as there's a lot of tentacles to sort through. And the bottom line for me, I'll kick off the opinion section of this story, is that if you're going to have John Lasseter return, then you better make sure that every employee that is going to be working under him or that's even going to be consulting with him feels 100% comfortable with that. And I would not force anybody that works at Pixar or Disney or anywhere else to actually be public about, I don't feel comfortable working with this guy, because he is in such a position of power and was in such a position of power for the last few decades. There's sometimes allegations don't mount up for a number of different reasons, but I think in this particular case, it might have just been the fact that people are afraid to be the one that leads the charge speaking out against somebody who is just that powerful. So Lasseter would be coming back, not in the same role that he would have. He would not be directly involved in the hiring or firing. He would be contained in certain scenarios just as somebody who can help the creative process along. Rocha, if you bring back Lasseter in that scenario, Do you think that that's fair, given all he's done for the Pixar company, or do you think that it's just too much and that there's too much smoke and that we do think there was fire there and he should not be invited back?
Yeah, I don't think he should be invited back. I think it sends a bad sign. If we're going forward this Me Too, we're going forward with the Time's Up movement to start to, what everyone's been afraid of, to start to welcome these people back and give them a redemption tour, I think is dangerous, and it sends a wrong signal that there's, we just had Cate Blanchett lead that arm-in-arm march at Cannes down there and read that statement, and then Disney, one of the largest studios, who's about to gobble up another studio, goes and says, well, we're worried that our films might not come out so well if we don't have Lasseter involved. The idea of being precious about people involved in this needs to die. There are incredibly talented people who don't get a shot at the situation, and now will have a shot at the situation. And if you bring him back, you better bring him back like Lecter. Put him in a glass case, have people shove things through doors so he can look at it and then put it back out. I don't want him anywhere near people. And then you wheel him out at the end of the day to his car with this on and the mask on, because that's the pariah that he has to be. Look, I'm happy with the Pixar movies. They're great. They brought us a lot of joy, right? But if the exchange was him doing these things to these women and hurting these people in this way, and no simple apologies enough, and I don't care they went on a 6-month sabbatical and he's been hidden. I don't give a crap about his t-shirts, his shirts, Hawaiian shirts, whatever he's done, it still exists and it's there for his legacy. We don't have to, as a public, and Disney doesn't have to as a company, keep his legacy going by bringing him back. There are plenty of talented people working in animation who would love a shot at being the person who they go through, because apparently he was the guy even when he wasn't like named on the film, everything went through him in Pixar and Disney when he got to his power. But unfortunately, ultimate power corrupts ultimately. And so we saw the things that he was doing. Yes, no one came forward, but that doesn't mean there weren't some really inappropriate things that happened. And don't forget Rashida Jones saying what she said when she walked away from writing the Toy Story, was it Toy Story 4 or whatever she was writing for Pixar, and said, they don't care about women. They don't care about people with voices of color, that kind of stuff. That bled from Lasseter. So I think if you're going to change the culture, you got to change the culture, and you can't bring back somebody because you think you need, oh, he might help us make some money, because then you're sending the wrong message all around.
Right. And I just think this is not a scenario where the term innocent proven guilty applies, because we're not talking about a court of law here. We're not asking for proof against Lasseter so we can prosecute him. We're simply saying that there's probably things that Pixar and Disney know, have heard of, have spoken to women that have felt uncomfortable around Lasseter, and they know a lot more than we do, even though we're the ones reporting this story here today. So I don't think innocent proven guilty matters at all. I think it more goes back to Rocha's point, Perri, that if you don't need this guy to come back, because Pixar has proven recently that they're running just fine without Lasseter, as much as he was involved in their previous hits, then I don't think it's worth for no other reason, the PR shot that you would take or the explanations you would have to give to have him come back.
Well, I don't think they have any kind of factual evidence that they're going to be okay from a content standpoint without him, because he was involved in their most recent hit, Coco.
Sure.
So, but still, I mean, that's really no excuse at all. I was really surprised to read this report, because I've been following this ever since the whole incident first came to light. And the most recent things I had read was that it looked like they were committing to moving on without him, which I think is the right move to make in this situation. I don't want to take the opportunity to have a scenario where there's forgiveness out of the equation, because I don't think anybody's life overall should be completely ruined and they shouldn't have the opportunity to prove themselves. But Lasseter, in a position of power at Pixar, having that 1 in a million, 1 in a billion chance to lead a company like this, and then to create that kind of environment in the workplace, I think that is immediate cause for removal and never allowing him to come back, because there's the issue of how he treated women in the workplace and at those parties that they had. And there's also the issue of any employee, no matter your race, your gender, anything at all, feeling bullied by him. And of course, this is based on reports that I've read over the past couple of months. And if that is the culture that he created, the second that you put him back in that scenario, I don't care if he's not in a managerial position anymore. If he has any creative input at all, you are essentially taking 2 steps back and saying, it's okay okay, we still need him. And you're also saying we don't have anybody creatively capable of doing what he's already done, which is something that Rocha brought up. And it's something that I believe is not true whatsoever. I do understand that because of the position he's in and what he did for Pixar and Disney Animation, yeah, maybe it's scary to do the right thing and take the leap as far as your business and content is concerned. But there is no doubt in my mind that there are smart people over there that can put their heads together and find a really talented person to lead this company. And you know what? They probably have that talented person under their umbrella already. So I don't think this is a good move at all.
Very well said. Rocha, do you want to add anything before we...
Well, I think it also says if you bring him back, you say the people who were victimized, who may still be working there, your feelings are not as important as our bottom dollar and this person. And you're going to have to deal with this person being in the office. You might accidentally run into this person. Your feelings don't matter because when you see this person, you're the one that's going to have to do the work to get over it. And that's unfair to those people. And so to bring him back it would be terrible.
Yeah, and to anybody that's been through it, I mean, I've read reports and I've read stories and I've talked to people, and even just seeing that person at the office, it creates a different vibe, creates a different culture. And as somebody who got to visit Pixar, actually, Mo and I went up to Pixar on a visit a couple years ago, and it was just incredible the environment that they're trying to cultivate up there. It felt true Northern California. There's people on scooters everywhere. There's free cookies. It's just open table kind of meetings, and it just seems like they're really trying to create a culture of creativity there. And I think that it wouldn't be conducive to that moving forward to have Lasseter actually be invited back in any capacity. And I don't think it's necessary to echo Rocha and Perri's points. I think there's a lot of creative people that could help step into that role. And it might not be one person, it might be a team of people, and that might be the best solution of all. Our next story involves Vin Diesel and him. Yeah, I teased it at the top, joining yet another action franchise. This one will be an original. All we know about it is that it's going to be a blend of action and comedy called Muscle. It makes sense given what Vin Diesel looks like. And Vin Diesel has been known to appear in comedies and have a comedic wink and nod from time to time. I don't know him to be the comedic superstar that I think a lot of other action heroes can possibly translate into. Maybe he's going to get the chance to do that in a movie called Muscle. Perri, do we have any more appetite for a Vin Diesel-led action franchise after all the Fast and Furious movies that we get, after the Triple X is going to continue? Do we need more Vin in our lives?
First off, I like Vin Diesel. I think he's a talented guy. I would watch movies that he's in.
Okay.
Am I going to buy a franchise that I know almost nothing about just because it's going to have Vin Diesel headlining and producing and it's called Muscle?
Pay our money right now. Do it.
No, I can't make any claim to know whether or not this project has potential because we don't know any story details so far. If anything, I think one of the most interesting things about this story happens to be what is following what we're covering on Movie Talk today. When you tie that in, everything that Vin Diesel is doing, or at least everything that's being reported about the decisions he's making right now, is pointing at him not necessarily scrambling, because maybe he's not panicking. Maybe he's making like a smart business decision and a career decision to find the next possible franchise. But bye-bye Fast and Furious for him. I mean, we do know that the main series is coming to an end, but you know, you have a couple of other people involved in those movies. That project feels like it's almost like, you know, like riding off in a positive direction, and they happen to be taking an original writer with them. And then here's Vin Diesel trying to make more Triple X and trying to strike up another franchise with STX. So until I hear more story information about this, I'm not going to judge this one too harshly, but I'm really curious to see where Vin Diesel lands as far as being a franchise headliner right now.
It says as much to me about STX as it does Vin Diesel, because STX is a company that I think looks at Vin Diesel and says, this guy is, yeah, he's marketable domestically to a certain extent. Internationally is where we really think we can make a lot of money with this guy and with this property. I mean, they make action movies, and action tends to do well overseas. You know, in addition to being here domestically, they recently released the Jackie Chan movie, The Foreigner, and so that's clearly an international appeal. They also did the action movie Den of Thieves. They've done comedies with, you know, the Bad Moms Christmas is a movie they released. I just don't. I don't think Vin Diesel as a crossover action comedy star in the same way that I would like, sorry, Vin, I hate to make the comparison with The Rock. And it seems like him and The Rock aren't getting along, whether that's all professional wrestling kind of sports entertainment behind the scenes, that they're just trying to goose us into seeing more Fast and Furious movies, or there really is a beef there, that The Rock is mad that Vin likes to take naps in the afternoon. Naps in the afternoon, there's no problem with that. You need your rest. What do you make of all this?
It's interesting because, like Perri said, I like Vin Diesel too. I enjoy him in the Fast and Furious movies. We tried this action comedy thing with The Pacifier. How did that work out? And he's done Last Witch Hunter and all these terrible other films outside the Fast and Furious movies. This is where he does this is where he makes his money and does his best work. And so I can't fault the guy for wanting to be so on the nose with a series called Muscle. I think Kevin Hart's going to do one called Funny. And then someone's going to come along and do one called Singer. And it's just it's so on the nose that to me, it doesn't like necessarily excite me. I want to see the story. I want to see the trailer, and then maybe I'll get involved. But something called Muscle, it feels like something going like from the 80s, that kind of thing, so on the nose. But STX Entertainment is interesting because they're finding their niche in the entertainment community by going almost backwards in time. Den of Thieves is something that was very reminiscent of Heat. Muscle could be very reminiscent of those 80s action films with Stallone and with Van Damme and all those guys. And then you have stuff like Molly's Game, which is really interesting. That's STX Entertainment as well. Bad Moms Christmas is going back to the more raunchier comedies that we had in the 80s and early 90s. And so this is, and even the new one that they have, that Peter Berg is doing with Mark Wahlberg, they're exploring this other side of it where it's the military thing, the CIA operative, and it's more red state vibe. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. There's a niche for it. People are going to come watch these films. And so STX is understanding where they can lay their, where they can put their foot down and leave a footprint in the entertainment industry. And so if they see something with Vin, like you were saying, Mark, that goes international, works, great. Call it Muscle, do whatever. See if you can make it work. And if funny, I personally think Jason Statham is a better idea to go with on this. If you remember Crank and the upcoming Meg looks like it's going to be that kind of vibe as well. But we'll see what Vin can do with it. He's still got a name, even with all the drama going on behind the scenes. I
do like the Statham call because Statham's really, he's proven, and he's somebody that I also didn't think was capable of mocking himself, but he does.
Yeah.
He's so funny in Spy. It's incredible, yeah.
As long as he takes it seriously when he's in that shark movie. You can have your spies, you better not crack a joke when you're looking at a 75-foot Carcadon Megalodon. Our next story involves, we're still in the Fast and Furious universe somehow. Fast and Furious 9 is slated for an April 2020 release, which coincidentally is the next movie up on Vin Diesel's slate, at least according to his IMDb. We have a new writer for the Fast and Furious 9th installment, and that is Daniel Casey, who wrote the upcoming sci-fi thriller Kin, starring James Franco, which we talked about the trailer, and here's the trailer. Blech. He also wrote The Heavy for Paramount Pictures, and that is coming up as well. So we have a new writer for Fast and Furious 9. What does the addition of a new writer tell you about this old franchise we continue to try to revive and does boffo box office every time it comes out in the theater, Rocha?
Well, it tells me that they want to maybe move away from The Rock a little bit, and maybe because that writer who's written the last few is going to write the spinoff, Hobbs, the Shaw and Hobbs spinoff. So more power to that writer to go and do that. So this tells me they maybe are going to be focusing a little more on Vin. So Vin wanted his own writer to come in maybe and do something here. That's what it feels like to me. And maybe they want to kind of wrap this thing up because they were saying 9 and 10 are the last two. So maybe they see this guy being able to wrap this up in the right way and put it together. And I don't mind it. It's good to get a new blood involved in the Fast and Furious, especially if you're going along this long. So
Nemiroff.
It's interesting to me because Chris Morgan has been part of that team for, what was it, something like 12 years?
Yeah.
So the fact that the original writer of the franchise is, and I don't want to give the impression like I know that this was their intentions, but to me, when I read something like this, I picture Chris Morgan kind of ditching the original series and Vin Diesel and moving on to something a little more new and more exciting, which is how I took the whole Jason Statham Rock stuff in the Fast and Furious movies that we've already seen them in. So I take it as him being like, no more of that. I'm going to go do this more fun thing that, in my opinion at least, has a lot more potential than the OG series right now. And I think the rumor is 9 and 10 and they're done. And they still have a great team around that. And I actually like the trailer for Kin, and I'm curious about that.
Really?
Right? Yeah. I did kind of like it. I liked how it felt a little more grounded and small.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, to each their own.
It seems creative and fun to me, but also that writer is getting, a lot of buzz right now, a lot of attention. And when so many people are going in on a writer like that, it makes me have faith that he was brought onto this project for a good reason. And, even though Fast and Furious, they've done very, very well over the years, sometimes, and especially after seeing Fate of the Furious, sometimes you need someone with a fresh set of eyes to come in and really spice it up. And who knows, maybe he does a killer job with the script, and then I feel differently about the comparison between the Hobbs and Shaw movie and Furious 9.
Yeah, and it's really going to be determined with this movie. I think it's how well he works with director Justin Lin, because Justin Lin is currently on board to direct not only the 9th installment, but also the 10th, which is, as of right now, said to be the last Fast and Furious movie. Is that actually going to be the last Fast and Furious movie? Probably not, but it probably is going to be the last one that Justin Lin directs. Maybe there's a different arc that it takes. I just can't imagine that these movies do so well that there's no way that the 10th Fast and Furious movie is the last one. There's going to be more Fast and Furious movies, and you can go see that. Then the next weekend you can go see Muscle Part 4 in theaters somewhere near you. Well, there is a movie coming out to theaters this August we're going to talk about because it just had its first trailer, and it's called Destination Wedding, starring Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. This is the 4th time that they've been in the same movie. Obviously, they kicked off their pairing with Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then they also teamed up for A Scanner Darkly and The Private Lives of Pippa Lee. This is a quirky romantic comedy directed by Victor Levin, who's primarily known for writing both screenplays and television. John Rocha, Perri Nemiroff, y'all have been guests at Destination Weddings.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have ever been to a wedding together at the same wedding at the same time.
We were supposed to be.
Were we?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I know where you're going with this.
Are you going with the nuptials of Perri Nemiroff's beloved sister?
Yes.
So you tried to shoehorn your way into being Perri's
I really
plus
did
one.
try to shoehorn my way into. She had a +1.
I really did think I was going to turn around at a point and see like Rocha peering in from the window or something.
I was going to be like The Graduate.
I was thinking more like Louis Tully and Ghostbusters banging on the tavern on the green door.
No, I just love that they've done a movie that's Perri and I at a wedding, basically. This is basically Perri. Perri's very finicky.
This is really
Perri
what
is
it
very
would be like.
finicky about her stuff, and I'm totally like, no, there's nobody for anybody. This is all a lie. We would
I gotta
absolutely
be honest
make it
with you,
work.
just being around the office, knowing y'all, I was like, this kind of reminds me of two people that I may be doing the show with today.
And you know what? And you know what would happen? We would absolutely see a mountain lion, and Perri would be like, "No, I think that's a jaguar. I think it's totally not. I don't think it's cougar." And I'd be like, "What does it matter? It doesn't matter."
I know the difference,
that's what
but I
she
would probably go out and try to pet it. I don't know if
she
that's
would.
what happens in the movie.
Yeah, which is why I'd be carrying her injury when it bit her and carrying her up the
probably.
hill. So
This is all accurate.
This seems like y'all responded to this trailer, or at least inspired you guys to do more weddings together.
So you know how I said, if you give me Vin Diesel and the title Muscle, that's not enough to sell me. All I really needed was not even this trailer, just Destination Wedding with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder, and I was already sold. But, some of the jokes in this trailer don't hit as well as others, but it just felt like someone stuck these two great actors who have a rapport with each other on set, kind of gave them a little guideline to play with, and then it's the two of them just bantering back and forth. And I kind of grew comfortable in that environment very, very quickly, where I do suspect that when I see this movie, I'm going to fall into step with them and just enjoy watching the two of them together in this situation.
It felt like a very real wedding scenario where you go to a wedding and you don't know who else is invited. You don't know who else you're going to be talking to. So you find someone that you have some sort of chemistry with and you glom onto them for the rest of the evening, whether that ends up having a romantic implications or you just need somebody to drink free wine with. I love going to weddings. I checked out some of the coverage of the royal wedding. I didn't watch any of it. I was watching the playoffs. But the royal wedding, that's like the ultimate best man speech opportunity. It's something that I think I'm worthy of, that I dream about. I love giving speeches at weddings. I love going to weddings. I went to one this past weekend. My good friend Eliza Schlesinger got married. It was a blast. I love seeing movies about weddings too, whether they take the romantic tinge or they take a very more serious vibe, like the Rachel with the wedding or the Rachel getting married,
Rachel
whatever,
getting married,
with Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
God, that movie, it was so authentic. I felt awkward. I felt like I was looking in on a family getting married. I do enjoy a good wedding romantic comedy. Y'all think this one has some hit potential? Late August, a sleeper summer movie,
I
perhaps?
think it certainly has a sleeper potential because people like to go see these kind of romantic comedies, and these are two established actors that we're getting to revisit again, who are having kind of a bit of a renaissance again with Keanu Reeves with the John Wick movies, and of course Winona with Stranger Things. So, and just that opening, yes, the joke's a little on the nose at the beginning with the whole like step. I like the stepping forward. That happens at the airport way too many times for my taste. But and her calling him out, and then him going, I need to be over there, and her doing the big thing. That might not work if they're doing larger beats. But it seems throughout the trailer that they've got some subtle humor going on, some fun banter, and I think there are people in their 40s who want to have the back and forth about like they're a little more bitter about love or a little more bitter about like relationships and stuff. And you throw in the storyline that she's still pining for the guy. Keanu's like talking to her about that. So there's a lot of interplay here that I think is going to be interesting, and that's what's going to matter in the movie, not like the wedding or anything else like that. It's their chemistry.
Yeah, I don't know about box office on this one. I don't know the scale of the release. To me, I mean, this is just my impression based on watching the trailer, but it looks like a more limited release to me, that if it happens to be hilarious and really funny, fans of these two will go to see it. But I don't know if we're talking about like the hot hit at the end of August here. Yeah,
I mean, there's always a couple of those movies that sneak up on you, Alex. I don't know that this one has that potential or even is being marketed as that, but I'm looking forward to the movie. And as somebody that flies a lot, Rocha, I can tell you, it's never cool to just cut in front of somebody.
Never.
But I've taken leads before.
What?
Okay, it's like baseball. You don't have to keep your foot on the bag the whole time. If I know that, and I'd fly a lot, I'm a platinum member of various airline conglomerates, and if I know that I'm about to be called before all these other people, then I'm gonna take a little lead because I know I'm about to walk right through there.
Wait, if 20 of us are standing in line, we were standing there for half an hour, and then you were off getting a freaking bagel, and you show up a half an hour afterwards, and you try to sneak in front of them. Do you do that?
I'm sorry, what's on your ticket? Are you a 5? Because I'm a 2.
Well, that's different.
Yeah,
group numbers
are
a lot different. But if we're in the same group and you've been gone the whole time and you just mosey on up and then try to get in front of all of us who've been standing there in the same group, then yeah, we're gonna have problems.
Don't crowd the aisle, kids. But if you need to take a little lead, it's legal. We're going to save some time at the end of the show for your live Twitter questions. So tell us all of your flying quirks and habits. Tweet us at Collider Video. Use the hashtag Collider Movie Talk. A couple of reminders that Deadpool 2 is in theaters this weekend, and we have our non-spoiler review is both up on Collider and Schmoes right now. You can also check out the spoiler-heavy review on both channels are going to be up later on this evening. So you go see Deadpool 2. It's going to be coming out in wide release as of tonight. Go see the movie, then come on back and check in with us. See if your thoughts match up with our thoughts when we're able to reveal everything. We'll be doing the same thing for Solo, a Star Wars story, when that comes out next week. And a movie that took the world by storm already this year was Black Panther. And we have a commentary that's going up very soon because the Blu-ray just came out. John Rocha, who's on our Black Panther commentary?
Well, Jay Washington is hosting it. It's me and Dennis Zhang. So the three of us sitting on the couch talking about Black Panther, going through it. Actually, very enjoyable commentary. And it was really hard to keep talking when you wanted to sit back and enjoy a lot of the movie. So I think you'll see us have some interesting tidbits and enjoying and giving a new life to the movie as you're watching our commentary. And we have a good time together, you know.
All right, and we also have a Schmodown dropping tomorrow, so make sure you guys check that one out. That's going to be between Clark Wolf and Sam Levine. It's a championship match, and you can also check out the team championship that went down on Tuesday. Before we get out of here and go to your live Twitter questions, Perri, Nemiroff, mailbag, both Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
You have any teases for questions that we're looking at?
I can tease something that I really like from one episode, and we're talking a little bit about the idea of going to like binge watch screenings. You know, when you see one edition of a franchise, if it's the best situation to put yourself in, to binge all of the other movies right before seeing that next installment, or if you're kind of setting yourself up to compare the new movie to everything that you had just watched.
All right. Check out Mailbag. That's also on this podcast feed. So when you subscribe to the Movie Talk podcast feed, you can check out Movie Talk, obviously, every day. Rate and review all these shows. Also, Mailbag and Afterthoughts, hosted by Ryan Snelling and Jay Williams. We move on to your live Twitter questions. But before we do, I got to tell you guys something. I hate when this happens, when something drops and then we can't talk about it on Movie Talk because it just happened. There was a trailer that just got released for a sequel. A lot of you action fans are anticipating out there. Escape Plan 2.
Oh, I saw it last night.
What? It was already up last night?
It was up last night.
I need to have a chat
Sylvester
with
Stallone and Dave
Mark
Bautista.
Riley. How would you get to the studio today and not inform me, Mark Ellis, diligently working on the stories here with Mark Riley, that you watched a trailer for Escape Plan 2? We could have talked about it today.
I had no idea that
That's on you, sir.
Oh, yeah, I will take the full hit for that because I had no idea that would generate interest with you. I didn't even know you saw the first one, which I saw twice in the theaters.
I may or may not have seen the first one, but I'm still looking forward to seeing the trailer for the second one. And now I'm excited to talk about live Twitter questions. Just me and Perri Nemiroff.
Bye, Rocha.
First question comes from Stouffer Popham and says, now M. Night Shyamalan has connected Unbreakable and Split, creating a world where people have special powers. Do you think it's possible that we'll see Cole Sear, the kid from The Sixth Sense, again? Being able to see and talk to the dead is a special power in this person's book. And I will extend this to whether it's going to exist in the Glass universe is one thing, or do you think that we could ever see an adult version of Haley Joel Osment's character in some other universe that Shyamalan
That's actually really interesting, and I'm shocked that this is the first time I'm hearing anybody bring something like that up. I never put two and two together,
well
admittedly,
done,
but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, especially because I never thought where Split went was ever going to be a possibility. So who knows what Shyamalan's doing? I think that would be an interesting little tease or twist there.
Yeah, if only we were allowing Rocha to weigh in on this segment. Our next question. No, please.
I love the idea. And if you want to throw in Bryce Dallas Howard as the blind seer, kind of like a daredevil of the group, I'm down with it. I'm down with that whole thing becoming a universe. And Lady in the Water. You could throw the Lady in the Water, right? She's a mermaid who does things, right?
Speak of Lady in the Water.
Well, I'm saying you can create that universe where there's all these fantastical creatures in the same universe. But Sixth Sense is brilliant. You could definitely, he could totally be in that. That would be awesome, actually.
All right. Luis Rivera says, if Solo fails at the box office, would it hurt Star Wars in the future, a la the prequels? I like Solo's failure at the box office. I think Solo's going to have a fantastic opening weekend regardless. It's the week to week after that. Do you think it's going to have any impact on the overall legacy of Star Wars or what the future movies could be? Will it affect Episode 9's box office?
I'm feeling pretty confident at this point, regardless of how I feel about Solo as a movie, that the box office is at a stable place where, watching it week to week after it has a really big opening weekend, it would be unfortunate for Lucasfilm and Disney for the movie to drop faster than they would like. But still, I think one way or the other, it's going to hold on strong enough that this isn't going to be a complete loss for them or have any kind of ripple effect.
Because Rogue One did just over $1 billion domestically. That's pretty...
If I had to make a bet right now...
Sorry, it did $1 billion worldwide, not domestically. Yeah.
If I had to make a bet right now, worldwide, I think it's going to come in under that.
Okay.
I think it's going to be over $1 billion worldwide because the global audience will be into an action-adventure movie. But I think overall the film is going to be fine and it's going to do well. I don't think it'll affect Episode 9 at all because JJ is untouchable at this point doing Episode 9. But I think it will influence what a Star Wars story we get next, which Star Wars story we get next as a spin-off. Will it be Lando? Will it be Obi-Wan? Will it be this? I think that's going to affect it and the box office. If it comes close to what Rogue One did, then they've got a successful formula that's working here as offshoots. So why not keep going? And I think, and I stand by what I said, there were mixed reviews. Now it's coming out on all numerous articles are talking about the mixed reviews of this film, but most of the reviews are positive. So if most of the reviews are positive, that means people are going to go to the box office and enjoy the movie overall.
What do you mean when you say JJ's untouchable right now? Did you just mean that he's such a well-known and beloved director that whatever he does in Star Wars is going to be well received?
No, I think because Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, made $2.5 billion, and the divisiveness of Ryan's installation with Last Jedi helps JJ become essentially untouchable because people think he's going to bring us back to that 7 vibe. And though other people can complain there's a bit of a tracing of A New Hope, people still loved what he did to the tune of $2.5 billion. So I think people will rush to see this episode 9 and have it repair what they think was wrong with episode 8, or continue if they liked what happened in episode 8. I think JJ is untouchable at this point.
Okay, I'm going to ask you our last Twitter question, and then before I get your answer, I'm going to give you some time to gestate, to think about, to digest. I'm going to give you guys the results of our Twitter, or excuse me, of our YouTube poll today. Our last Twitter question comes from J. Scott St. Clair, and in honor of the Destination Wedding trailer, starring Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder, he says, "What's the best wedding speech delivered in a movie?"
Ooh.
Damn.
Jay Scott nominates The Wedding Singer, and this isn't just limited to like best man or maid of honor speeches. I can extend this to any speech that you see at a wedding in a movie. While you guys are furiously thinking about it, our YouTube poll results are in. Your most anticipated horror sequel, your options were It Chapter 2, Glass, Halloween, and The First Purge. The First Purge coming in 0%. Sorry, First Purge. It's hard when you go up against a behemoth like It Chapter 2 is at 52%. Glass hanging in there nicely at 36%. Only 10% for Halloween. People not that excited to see Halloween when it is matched up against a clown and Samuel L. Jackson, a very brittle Sam Jackson. All right, so your best wedding speeches in movie history. Rocha is using his cell phone.
He's cheating.
Is using her brain.
For the record.
Because I'm old and I have to remember things, but I've got
that
one.
means you should have seen more wedding movies.
Probably, but since I've never been married, I don't really run to see wedding movies.
As a guy who's been single most of his life, I can say single dudes run to wedding movies because they make us believe in a brighter future.
Oh, really?
Or a darker future, depending on what your outlook is. You have to go first because you used your cell phone.
Bridesmaids, definitely what Kristen Wiig does in that speech is incredible because of everything that's come beforehand. And after that scene with Melissa McCarthy going, "This is your life. This is your life. This is your life," to have her deliver that really heartfelt speech to
No, don't go to Perri.
Maya Rudolph.
Go to your trusty cell phone.
I think I just won another Schmodown.
And oh my god, and I think the Love Actually speech is great as well in the wedding. What he says and what he talks about. Even though at the end he wants to kind of be with her, it's still a really sweet speech about the connection he has with his best friend, how happy he is for his best friend.
Yeah, not that big on Love Actually. Sorry.
Okay.
Perri Nemiroff.
Actually.
Yeah.
Actually.
I'm sorry for your bitterness. I'm sorry.
Bridesmaids was immediately where my mind went, just because Kristen Wiig's journey in that movie is really something else, and just her relationship is that kind of builds throughout the movie and how it affects her friendship and her supporting. Maya Rudolph always kind of touches me. I love that movie. Rachel getting married I hate saying the best because I can't remember all the specifics of the speech, but Rachel getting married is really one heck of a film. And it's one of those ones where it really sticks with you and gets under your skin in an interesting way after. And I was just watching Wedding Crashers recently, and Wedding Crashers is filled with a variety of great speeches. So I think I would have to go with Wedding Crashers for right now, although Bridesmaids is my favorite.
How about Baldwin and Along Came Polly? These people, I love them.
Wow.
They better do it. Come on,
I haven't thought of that
do
movie in a while.
I'm going to give you a bunch of different options, and none of these were cheated. I actually thought of these in my head.
Oh.
So I'm going to go to the world of TV first. I love Chandler trying to give a good speech at the Ross and Rachel.
You're cheating now.
It's a funny wedding.
Well, if we're
and then
going to do
there's a bunch of one-man performance pieces. The Rowan Atkinson, the legendary actor behind Mr. Bean and Blackadder and Johnny English. He did a stand-up set where he was doing an impression of a drunk dad giving a speech at a wedding. YouTube it. It is fantastic. As far as movies go, I am going to say that there's a movie that just doesn't really get talked about, although if it's on TV, I highly recommend you catch it, called The 5-Year Engagement. And it's Jason Segel and Emily Blunt.
Love that movie.
And Chris Pratt plays the best man, and he gives a speech. I think it's at the reception, it's at like the friends and family dinner, the rehearsal, not the actual reception. But the speech he gives is recounting to Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire" all of the other relationships that Jason Segel's character has been in, and he counts them down, and it's so funny. And it's just, you watch that and you're like, this Chris Pratt kid He's really got something special, and we obviously have seen that come to fruition in dinosaur movies, Perri.
Obviously.
Yeah.
That's what dinosaur movies need.
That film needs to be reevaluated. 5-Year Engagement is great.
I haven't
Allison
thought about that
Brie,
movie in forever.
Emily Blunt is great in that
Yeah.
film. It's so funny, and that ending is one of the sweetest endings when they finally get married on the hill and the Van Morrison song. It is so good.
All right, kids. Just remember, when you're giving a wedding speech, it's not stand-up comedy time. You can be really funny, and if you're really funny or you're dirty or gross, just close with some sort of quote from a poet, and you're going to be just fine. And don't forget to raise a glass to the bride and groom. That is John Rocha. That is Perri Nemiroff. I am Mark Ellis. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Movie Talk. We'll see y'all tomorrow, where we're finally going to get to talk about the Escape Plan 2 trailer. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.